Like, I think going on below deck was actually like a blessing for me because it really did make me come to terms with it a lot more. Like, I think it really hit me the most on there for some reason. I don't know why. I think it maybe because obviously we were super busy all the time, and you know, like the exhaustion and like you know, it's everything's crazy on there. Yeah, I don't know, but I did come to terms with it a lot more. But you know, even after that, I've kept busy. I had Christmas at home last year because we kind of knew that it was going to be my dad's last Christmas in the house. By the end of January, I was gone again. Then literally, I've been home for like a week or two here and there since January. And that's why I'm home now, because I feel like, in a way, like yachting is an escape route for me. Like, you know, I can go away, and yachting is so crazy that you're busy. You do these crazy hour days. But when you are working, all you can think about is work. It is like crazy. Like what you guys see on the show is actually like very real to like how yachting is. But obviously it's a lot easier for me because then I'm away from home. I don't have to like think about it. I'm not really thinking about what is actually going on at home. And what I'm trying to say is that's why I'm home now, and I'm gonna like spend time at home, because I'm so worried that like I actually haven't processed it as much as I probably should have by this point. It's such a shame because I've only ever heard of people having like been through it with grandparents with like Alzheimer's or dementia. And then obviously after I spoke about it on Below Deck, the amount of people that messaged me saying that they're also going through it, because it's called like early onset Alzheimer's, basically when the patient gets it a lot earlier on than, you know, the usual kind of time frame for one of them like diseases. And yeah, so many people messaged and they were like, I'm going through the same thing. I'm 21, I'm 25, I'm 30, I'm 32, like with their parents. And I just think it's crazy the fact that like I had never heard of somebody before that, and they had never heard of somebody before me speaking about it.
Yeah.
Like, being in the similar situation. I definitely want to like try and open up some sort of like a community kind of thing, like either on Facebook or something, just to begin with, and then eventually like an organization, just for people to actually talk about it. Because I feel like if I had been able to talk about it earlier on, then I would have actually known what I was going through a lot sooner, being able to deal with it so much better than I have dealt with it.
I completely agree. I mean, that's what I've been trying to do here, because I felt like the same thing when I lost my dad young. I was like, well, wait a second, there's nobody that's my age that's talking about it, until all of a sudden all these people started coming out of the woodwork. And it was like, I had no idea. People would see casually, they were like, oh yeah, my mom died 13 years ago or whatever. And then we bonded over it. People that are across the globe messaging you, and you feel like a certain bond to them because you know you're going through something similar to them. Through people messaging you or through just your research, have you found any groups or resources that have been really helpful to you that you can share here that maybe will help some of the listeners?
I really haven't. That's what I find like the most crazy. You know, obviously you reached out to me, and we've been trying to do this for ages because I thought like it would be obviously a good place to talk. And I do feel like a podcast like this, where you can talk to somebody who's been through like similar things and stuff, are like such a beneficial thing for someone. Like, but yeah, no, as for like community, like the whole community things and stuff, I haven't really found anything. Like, I've obviously, as you say, bonded with people over like Instagram message and stuff because they've been going through the similar thing. That's about it. That's why I want to like start something where people can feel free to like talk about how they're feeling or like what they're going through, or even, you know, like some of the things that I went through with my dad are like crazy, and like things that 26-year-old girls shouldn't really go through with their dads. Also, just to kind of spread awareness for Alzheimer's and stuff. Literally, people think that somebody starts to forget and that's it.
Yeah.
When actually that person literally goes back in time and turns into like a toddler again. There was this time when we were in my hometown and we were walking past this van, and there was a guy inside the van, but my dad in his head is still like this, you know, he always spoke to everyone. He was very friendly, like, and he knew everyone around my hometown. So he's like walking past his van and he's like super close to the car and he's just staring. My dad stares at this guy, but not in like an aggressive way or anything. But because he stares at him, this guy's like, fuck is this guy staring at me for? So as we're walking away, this guy gets out of the van and he's like, you right, mate? Like, literally, he's like, you got a fucking problem, and starts like storming over to me and my dad. And I'm like, well, I literally have to like jump in and be like, please stop, I'm so sorry, he didn't mean to stare at you, like he's got Alzheimer's. And this guy's like, are you sure? Am I sure that my dad's got Alzheimer's? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And he was so angry, like he was like literally ready to fight my dad, thinking that my dad had said it in a certain way. People are so easy to judge and like to kind of get their back up about things. And I'm like, people need to know that there's a lot more other things that come with like Alzheimer's and dementia and stuff. Like,
absolutely.
So many different like side effects and symptoms and everything. It's just been crazy. And so yeah, I would like to kind of spread awareness for that and start some sort of online community thing.
To talk about those things, like the things, you know, bring them out of the shadows a little bit, like just even like I don't want to say little things, because that's not little. I mean, you know, that could have turned into a real issue, but like just even going out to the store with your dad can turn into something that's a lot of stress for you to have to handle. We talked about being in a position where you work across the globe and how sometimes that can actually really help you. I really commend you for continuing to pursue this dream. And it seems like your family is very supportive of it. And that's awesome, because I know it's very difficult to be a caretaker and to be dealing with this all the time. Has it ever come across your mind to maybe change your career to be home, or is that something that you would see? Or actually, it seems like yachting kind of gives you the flexibility to go off for a few months, but be home for a few months. So maybe this is the best career.
Yeah, no, of course. Like, I never wanted my mum to deal with it all on her own. Like, when she first told me, I said, like, do you want me to stay home? I can help. I've always had like little bar jobs and shop jobs and stuff around in my hometown for whenever I was home. So, I always said to her, like, I'm very happy staying here until it's all kind of under control and whatever. And there's been occasions where I've been really like, I was working on a boat and my mum was struggling and and I felt so bad. I wanted to be here to help. My brother's always lived like around the corner, so he's always been here helping. And my mum's obviously had like carers and other helpers and stuff coming in during days. But I've always given her that option, and I've always been home like as soon as she needs me, when she has needed me. Which is the good thing about yachting, is it does give you that flexibility. And now obviously, I've made enough money over the past 2.5 years that I can just stay home for a bit. And my mum always said to me when it was happening, wait until I actually really need you home. Like, I'm fine at the moment. We've got our routine. Wait until I really need you. Like, the worst of this, it's been, I'm sure it's been so terrifying for my dad. It makes me sad to even think about what he must have been through. But for my mum to obviously be the carer for this like whole time, and she's been obviously noticing these things for years before he was diagnosed, knowing something's not right, and then for him to be diagnosed and it literally go on this like downward spiral. But my mum's obviously very strong, and she said to me, like, come home when I really, really needed you. So basically yachting does give you the flexibility, but I've always been there when she has needed me. That's always been an option for her. And of course I've always felt terrible going away, but my dad did work offshore as well, and my mum said my dad would never have wanted me to stop doing this job that I've finally found that I enjoy. It's like a career, and my dad would never have wanted me to like stop for him. And also my mum said, my dad would hate to see me looking after him in this way, she thinks that it was actually like it kill him more, like me seeing him in this way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's lovely of her to be able to look at it in that way and still want you to have your life and live your life and your career, and for you too. It seems like your family has a really good system going on for you to be home at the times that you need to, or your mom saying like, I'll call on you when it's really necessary. Obviously not being around your family all the time. I think the coolest thing that we saw on this season of Below Deck, you guys really became a family. I am so over some of these other shows. Like, I'm not a housewife person, because I feel like all it is they just sit there and scream at each other the entire time. And like, listen, I have enough stress on my plate. I don't need to sit there and watch that. I want to really de-stress and watch something enjoyable. And your season was so fun because you guys got along so well, with obviously the exception of Lexi, who, my goodness, that girl, it's very unfortunate. She is going through her own grief and needs some help. She needs to listen to the So Sorry for Your Loss podcast to really help her with her grief.
Yeah, no.
But did you feel you got good support from the people on Below Deck once you did open up, and that people helped and would check in on you? Or did it alleviate some of the sadness of being away from your family, knowing that you could count on the people on the yacht with you?
Yeah, 100%. We had all of us had such a good bond. And, like on Lexi's half, she is obviously going through a really horrendous time of her life. And I think it was bad timing for her to be on a show like that. People deal with grief very differently. Like, I think it was probably bad timing for me to be on a show like that, but I just cry. I don't really get angry. Whereas obviously some people with grief, they do get angry. And like, I honestly, like, I do hope that she's like actually dealing with it and she's doing okay. I really do. Because the first 2 charters or whatever, I actually got on with her quite well. And, there was one night where we did bond over our grief and what was going on. And it was such a shame that it all did go the way that it did go. But as I say, people will deal with grief in different ways. And unfortunately for hers, it was not a nice way. Yeah, we all obviously had an amazing bond. Like to have Katie like by my side, and to know that I could literally depend on her whenever I needed her, or if I did need to cry. There'd be times in like sit meeting where somebody would say, the most stupid thing, but I would be so exhausted and like
It just
I
all
was so
came
over
out.
about not getting any kind of, yeah. And like I literally just had to walk off after the meeting, and I just walked straight into the master, and I just like burst into tears. And like Katie didn't say anything because she didn't want to like draw attention to it. She didn't want to cause cameras follow her. So like she walked like straight into the master, didn't say anything, and then she making sure I was okay and like being there for me. And yeah, so it was amazing to have that. And you know, everybody else on the show as well. We still speak now. We still have a group chat. Like that's how close we were.